I've lived in America for over 10 years now, and one of the things that I find most fascinating is how Americans remember and don't remember things. For example, every American can tell you exactly what happened on September 11th, 2001, even though none of them were alive when it happened. But ask an American to tell you about the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and they will look at you like you were speaking Swahili. So today we're gonna do a little history lesson, and I'm gonna tell you the real reason why the United States exists. Okay, before we get into it, let me just say this. Okay, this video is not meant to offend anyone. I am simply telling you the truth, the unvarnished truth about the founding of the United States. And if you don't like that, well then I suggest you go back to your country. Just kidding. You can stay right where you are and continue watching this video. Alright, so here goes. As some of you may know, the United States was founded by a group of people called the Puritans who fled England in the early 1600s. Now the Puritans were a very interesting group of people. They were pilgrims who wanted to purify the Church of England of all its Catholic rituals and traditions. But the problem was that the King of England at the time, King James I, wasn't exactly on board with this plan. So the Puritans decided to take matters into their own hands, and they fled to North America, where they founded the Massachusetts Bay Colony in 1630. Now, the Puritans were a pretty ruthless bunch. They believed that God had chosen them to be his special people, and they were on a mission to spread Christianity to the rest of the world. In fact, they were so zealous that they even wrote a book called the Book of Common Prayer, which outlined the rituals and traditions that would become the foundation of Puritan worship. But the problem was that the Puritans didn't have much experience in things like agriculture or, not being persecuted for your religion. So they turned to the one group of people who had both, the Native Americans. Now, the Puritans could have just asked the Native Americans for help, but that would have been too easy. So instead, they did what any reasonable people would do in that situation. They made friends with the Native Americans and then promptly stabbed them in the back and stole their land. Now there's a lot of details I'm leaving out here, but the long and short of it is that the Puritans made a few Native American tribes very angry, and those tribes were the Pequot, the Narragansett, and the Wampanoag. Now, these tribes had been living in peace with the Puritans for years, but after the Puritans killed the Pequot chief, the peace was broken and the tribes went to war. Now, the Puritans weren't exactly prepared for war, but luckily for them, they had a secret weapon, the musket. The musket was a new type of firearm that had just been invented in Europe, and it was much more effective than the bows and arrows that the Native Americans were using. In fact, the Puritans were so effective with their muskets that they wiped out entire Native American villages, and by the end of the war, they had killed or enslaved most of the Native Americans in New England. And that, my friends, is the real reason why the United States exists. It was founded on the backs of dead Native Americans. Now, if you want to learn more about this, I highly recommend reading a book called 1491 by Charles C. Mon. It's a really interesting read, and it gives you a lot of insight into the Native American perspective of things. But yeah, that's all I got for you today. Hopefully you learned something, and hopefully I didn't offend anyone. If I did, then just remember, I'm not the one who shot Lincoln's assassin. Really appreciate you tuning in. Can't wait to catch you next time.